afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Conversation with Robert T. Gibson. My name is Felicia Elanum, and I will be running everything in the background for our session today. We're thrilled to host such an exciting webinar and to introduce you to such a wonderful composer and human being, Robert T. Gibson. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Choral Publications, Andy Beck. Thank you, Andy, for being with us today.
Thank you, Felicia. It's great to be here. And to everybody who's tuning in, I am legitimately thrilled to have this conversation with Robert T. Gibson. Robert is one of our newer choral arrangers here at Alfred Music, and it's been so exciting to get to know him and work together as his editor. And now to share this conversation with you is just going to be so much fun. So when I first met Robert, he was a middle school choral teacher in Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri, at Reed Academy. He's now at North Texas State University. And everybody give it up, get into chat, send your applause and cheers for Mr. Robert T. Gibson. Here he is.
Hey guys.
Hey Robert, so good to see you today.
How are you, Andy?
I'm good. I see we're both wearing our flashy shirts.
Oh yeah, I had to bring out the flowers. Yes. Shout out to my wife. Giving me all.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, the first order of business, I introduced you as Mr., but I understand soon I'm going to be introducing you as Doctor.
Woo. Oh yeah.
Can you tell us a little about that? What's going on?
Yeah, so I will be starting the PhD in music education at the University of North Texas. So it's funny, North Texas State was the name before they changed it. So now it's actually UNT, the University of North Texas. So that's actually my alma mater, and I'll be going back there. So give me a little time, and Dr. Gibson, here we come.
Pretty exciting. What are you studying?
So I'll be studying music education. That is the field, but I'll be doing a lot of things with emphasis in choral conducting. So I'll kind of be doing more of a hybrid type situation where I'll be learning about research and also learning things about conducting for the field.
Fantastic. Is it too soon to know what your research topic might be? Do you have a specific thing in mind?
I have a lot of ideas. I don't have anything pinpoint. So once school starts, I'll be able to shed a little bit more light about that.
Oh, that's great. And wishing you the very, very best with that.
Thank you.
Now, let's back it up a little bit here. I got right to what you're doing now, but I know someone with your talent and your years of experience, despite you being so young, you've got years of experience. I know I'd love to know about the beginning. Like, where did you grow up? Where did your musical journey begin? All of that stuff.
Yeah, so born and raised in Houston, Texas. I will start with this story because I start every time I talk about it. When I was 3, 4, 5 years old, I used to own Matchbox cars. I had about 300 Matchbox cars. Yeah, I had a lot of them. And I still have them to this day.
Nice.
And those Matchbox cars never went through a car wash, or they never like rode on the train tracks or anything like that. Those Matchbox cars were a choir. So I have a box of sopranos, I have a box of altos, and I had a box I did. And I would spread them out on my bed. I would spread them out on the staircase, like wherever I could, and I would have a church service. And that happened very frequently.
Oh my gosh.
So my mom walked in one day and I had on her choir robe and I was standing on the stool and I was directing the choir and there was no one moving, but they were moving in my heart, you know? And so, yeah. And so that's when they knew, okay, I think there's going to be a musical talent here somewhere. So that is where I started from. That is the start.
That's awesome.
Definitely. And I also shout out to my home church, Southeast Community Church in Houston, Texas, 10413 Asheville. Pastor Thurman H. West is my pastor. And I got a lot of opportunities there to direct. I sang in the church choir. I was a part of almost every ministry that was possible. And then when I got older, I got a chance to come back and do a lot of the things with the youth. And so Southeast was a big inspiration for where I got to kind of hone in a lot of my gifts.
Fantastic. Now tell us what kind of music you would have sung in that church choir.
Sure. So, of course, being in the church, we did a lot of gospel. That's essentially what we did. I fell in love with classical music when I got into middle school. And my middle school teacher, 8th grade, her name was Laura Connor. And I got a chance to speak with her yesterday. And she was somebody who really challenged me and told me that I was going to be great. So I'm thankful for her. Classical was also something I did in high school with Rob Seibel and Patricia Bonner and Carol Nelson. But something else that we did in church is there were a lot of different arrangements. So in gospel, it's not just one person does one song or one style. There's somebody who does an arrangement of something. So there's been so many arrangements of Amazing Grace and so many arrangements of different gospel songs that people like. So that's kind of where I found my love for arranging songs, because I would hear a traditional hymn and say, I could see it being done this way. Or I would hear, a gospel song that I've heard and I'm like, wow, this would be cool if the sopranos did this and the altos did this, So that's kind of where I got my love for arranging. And that is where a lot of my music goes. It's a song that I've really liked, maybe something I've heard from church, and arranged it in a way where people can say, wow, that's unique, that's different, I like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, on the projects we've worked on, I've heard that sort of gospel voice loud and clear in your writing, and it's just exciting to see that and to see that in your work.
Sure.
When you talked about taking a traditional song and hearing your own ideas, it reminds me of your new piece, Down by the Riverside, which I feel like that's exactly what you did.
Exactly. So perfect example. So Down by the Riverside you can consider that a gospel tune. It is a spiritual, but it is definitely a gospel tune. And there is I call it a mashup section where the sopranos and altos are doing one thing, and then the basses are doing something else, and then the tenors are doing something else, and they end kind of on the same words. So in Riverside, the words are Riverside, and then they kind of go back and do their own thing. That is a really big part of a lot of gospel. You will just hear other choirs, and it's a really exciting thing. Gospel is not a boring style; it's a very exciting style of music. So, yeah, I'm really glad that we got a chance to do that, and people got a chance to hear that in the music.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I just noticed just the way you say Riverside, like it's separated. The articulation is sort of the way you wrote it on the page for us. Like if you didn't know what to do, you've kind of notated it to fit the style. Yes. Exactly.
You know what? I think the more and more I've done research on different styles, one thing about gospel that I've found is, we love the term legato and staccato, but in gospel, we really sing fragmented, so we would not really sing, Riverside. That doesn't really work in our style. We have a more agitated style. So Riverside, although it's the same word, we have 3 different syllables that we use. So it's a more fragmented style of music because we put emphasis on certain things. Which makes the music come alive. Definitely.
I love hearing that from you, who really knows the style. Hey, can I suggest that we look at that piece right now? For people
let's do it.
We're talking about it. Let's take a look.
Sure.
Study war no more. Study war no more. By the riverside. Study war no more. Study war no more. By the riverside. Study war no more.
Gosh, every time I hear your music, Robert, it just puts such a big smile. There's so much joy in what you bring.
I'm glad. I was sitting here admiring the singers. I'm like, the singers are phenomenal, you know,
Oh.
and whoever recorded those are really great. And it's fun. And you know what? I love how you added the band, because band is a really big part of the gospel style as well. You know, so drums and organ and all that stuff is perfect. So authentic. I love it.
A little glimpse behind the curtain is, you know, a composer and arranger like Robert works with me on what's going to be on the page, and then it's my job as an editor at Alfred Music to get it recorded. And knowing the style that we wanted, you know, I know who to hire. This particular group came from Nashville, where there's a great gospel music tradition, and we made sure on that date to hire singers who really would have a clear understanding of the style. So I'm pleased that you like the quality of that recording.
Of course.
I know they enjoyed performing it. And that, yeah, that I love, you call it a mashup. That mashup section is so much fun.
Oh yeah.
Tell me, I believe, if I remember correctly, you've taught this to a student group before.
You know what? I've actually taught it to two different groups. So when I originally, here's the story behind this arrangement.
Yeah.
When I was at Reed Academy in Springfield, which I miss all my Reed kids so much, we would do a annual Black History concert. And so at the time, there was not a lot of music that fit the range of my singers. And so I would begin to kind of write different songs for them so that they could, you know, have it. So originally, this started off as just the Down by the Riverside part. And I was teaching it by rote. And I had the basses, and then I brought the soprano out, the tenors. We did all of that. And then I was like, you know, this is actually really good. So then I added another verse, you know, because it really just started off as like just the kind of, let's see if it's going to work. Yeah. Then I added another verse, and then we added the mashup section later. And then eventually actually became a really good song. The Reed Academy Singers, we actually sang this at MMA in Missouri. And we had a guest tambourine player, Maria Ellis is here. She played tambourine for us. And that was great. The second place I did it, I actually did it with the Missouri State Gospel Choir. And I did something a little different with the voices. So when we get to the mashup section, in the choral setting, the sopranos and altos have the Study War No More part. I gave that to the altos. When we did I'm going to lay down my burdens, I gave that to the tenors an octave up. And then the Down by the Riverside, I gave that to the sopranos. So it still worked. It's just a different voicing. So it's able to work in the choral setting, and it's able to work in a gospel setting. So it's really cool that we can kind of make this work, and it's all in the spirit of choral music. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're sort of opening the door for folks to improvise a little bit with the form for their own groups. Is that true?
Yeah, I think for people who are well who understand how to make it work, I think definitely. And if you don't, I think what's written is definitely fine to use as well. You know, but if you know you can take a part and make someone sing that and it can come together easily, great. You know, or you know, maybe having everyone sing the alto line. You know, having everyone sing the tenor line just so they can understand what's happening throughout the entire piece. I think it's really great.
And of course, that section repeats, so you could have more repeats or fewer repeats or whatever works where you
Exactly. And one thing we talked about when we learned, that's something I learned from you, is when we score music, sometimes we don't say repeat 95 times, we repeat it, so that they can get it. But if they decide to, in the spirit of the piece, if they want to repeat it, or for example, in that piece, if we get to the end and we want to reprise, we could actually go back to that mashup section and do that entire again, because that's really what happens in the gospel style. You do a lot of reprising of songs.
I love that.
Yeah, so it works, and you can just start the music right there at that measure, and it's perfect. It's awesome.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that when I program.
Yes,
that's awesome. That will get
great.
Your crowd will be on their feet at that point, right?
Oh yeah, you get the crowd clapping, you get the crowd involved, you get the music. I mean, it's a very spirit. I mean, that's similar to what we grew up with in church. So it's great. Mm-hmm.
That is fantastic. So you have mentioned for us a few names of important people in your life. Are there any mentors who you have not given a shout out to yet? I know that, teachers make us the musicians we are. So I imagine you have quite a few.
I'm going to start with people who, of course, Ronnie Fleming was my elementary school teacher. So big shout out to him. Laura Connor was my middle school teacher. Miss Bonner, Miss Nelson, Rob Seibel, those are really big. When I got to college, and as I was transitioning to college, Byron McWilliams and Chad Brawley were two great big people in my life. Hank Neal, somebody from Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. Of course, shout out to all of my family who was in support. Shout out to my wife. When I got to college, Byron was a really big part of allowing me to understand what was going on, as well as people like Titus Glenn, people who were in Denton at the time. And yeah, I'm probably forgetting a lot of names, but those are the people right off the top of my head I just was just so thankful for, and they allowed me to just do what I do. So,
well, a lot of fabulous Texas musicians. Texas is filled with incredible educators and musicians. So it sounds like you've had a lot of good influences on your career thus far. I wanted to say earlier when we were talking about Down by the Riverside, what I love about what your pieces include, it's this sort of rich gospel history, as well as this experience of teaching real life middle school singers.
Oh,
which
yeah.
To me is like this beautiful combination of style and educational needs.
Of course. If you one thing, if you notice, so spoiler, when I first sent you the song, if you remember, that ending wasn't as big as it was. And so I was expanded to know that the singers can go farther. But if you notice the range of the singer, I try not to make singers sing too, especially at middle school, because they tend to want to sing incorrectly because they're still not really trained on how to sing. And throughout time, they get there. But I made sure the range was perfect for them, as well as making sure that it was something that they would want to sing over and over again, So it was, I believe it was repetitive enough, as well as the range was great enough where it could mesh and it wasn't too uncomfortable for them,
Yeah. Well, another spoiler alert, Robert and I have other projects we've been working on that will have yet to be released, but I love working with you, Robert, because of those things I mentioned, your understanding of the training that goes into a younger singer, and also your style that I hear so loud and clear in your voice.
Definitely.
Along the way, it's been interesting to sort of establish a relationship with a new writer to me. You were new to me a year or two ago when we started this. And it's been fun to learn from each other. Do you have anything to add on that point?
Oh, yeah. I want to mention Kevin Macbeth. Kevin Macbeth was the person who actually introduced me to you. Because I did Lovely Day with the MSU Multicultural Ensemble. We actually performed it in 2019. It's not the same arrangement that we did, but Kevin Macbeth was someone who really pushed me for about a year. And I would not have met you without that. So thank you, Kevin, for that. And yeah, I think me and Andy we have a language that we've kind of developed where we we're very strong-headed and have very strong opinions about things, but I think we're also learning how to say, okay, I can see what you were doing there, and okay, let's make that switch because it's for the betterment of the music and not necessarily for, I'm gonna just have my own way. That's something I had to learn, and I think that's something that we both do really well together.
I think so too. And I've never felt like you are strong-headed. I just feel like you have a great voice and a great experience to bring to it all. For the folks at home, might be interesting if you're an aspiring writer. What goes into published music at a lot of companies like Alfred is really a collaboration between a writer like Robert and an editor like me. And we both have our own experiences and our own perspective that contribute to, now I would say like most of what ends up on that page is you, without a doubt. And I would never as an editor want to take any of that away. But we have a few things we do as editors that kind of make it useful and understandable to the little large market that we serve. So
exactly,
it's been really fun to work with you, Robert, and I look forward to lots of it in the future. Hey, you mentioned Lovely Day, and I think now's a good time to share that, because if people don't, I imagine everyone here probably knows your Lovely Day because so many people have fallen in love with it, but I want to show it if it's okay. Sure.
Let me tell you that this was the first Alfred arrangement, and it's the same. If you go back, you just talked about voice, because my experience is gospel, that's kind of where my voice comes from, with a little bit of jazz. Like I attribute that to North Texas, but it's the same thing of the whole mashup thing. When we get to the certain part, it's just all the voices kind of coming in together, which is one of my favorite sections. So I can't wait to listen as well.
All right, let's check it out.
In the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, bears heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day, 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 lovely day. Impossible to face when someone else instead of me always to know the way. Then I look at you. Then I look at you. Then I look at you. And the world's all right. With me. Just one look at you. Just one look at you. Just one look at you. And I know it's gonna be. It's gonna be a lovely day.
Well, I mean, that is a lovely day right there. That's just so great. So great.
Every time I hear that song, I get really emotional. That song right there it does something to me, man. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, the song itself is great, and then you've added all these incredible layers to it. I love it.
Yeah. It's funny. I believe right after Bill Withers died is when I think I had just submitted it. And I wish I would have submitted it sooner because I would have loved for him to hear that, That would have been something really cool to experience because that song was, it just does something to you. I can't explain that, but it just does, It's a great song.
Well, listen, thank you for pouring your heart into it because that just helps us to all feel it. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an easy question and then maybe a harder one.
I'm ready for you. Come on.
What does the T stand for?
Oh, the T. The T.
Or maybe you don't like to say.
Oh no, I say it's funny because the running joke at my middle school was that the T stood for Timothy. That is not the Timothy, and then it changed to Terrific, then it changed to Tommy, then it changed to all the little names. The T stands for Thomas. My first and last name are my father's name, and my first and middle name is my grandfather's name. So I have Robert Thomas, which is my grandfather, then I have Robert Gibson, which is my dad. So I'm kind of all the generations with my name. So yeah, the T. I was told by someone that if you have 5 syllables in your name, that's a really professional name. So Robert T. Gibson, and I'm good. So if I would have put the Thomas, would have been 6 syllables. So I like the T.
Oh gosh, I never got that advice. Yeah, that's interesting. Fun. I like the family tradition. We have something similar in my family. I have my dad's middle name. First name is my middle name. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, now here's one I really have to ask.
Okay.
So there's a lot of conversation in the world right now, a lot of educators like me that came from sort of a more classical background. I'm a white person. I would like to authentically include spirituals and gospel and music by Black composers. Can you help me with this topic at all? Can you help me understand what's appropriate to do, what's not appropriate to do? What's your perspective on this, Robert?
Sure. I'm going to come from the perspective of the music that I have arranged and music that I've done. So I think that any music out there, just as we're taught to score study and we're taught to do those things, I think that's important. I think that one, of course, you have to know the age group that you're doing it in. So for example, Down by the Riverside works very well with middle school voices, and it can work really well with high school voices. Lovely Day could work really well with middle school voices, but more so for the advanced, So maybe a high school group. I've seen a lot of recordings of high school groups and maybe even like pop groups doing Lovely Day, which I think works really well. I think it's important. I'm glad you kind of brought up the kind of the elephant in the room of there is there music that I can't do. I think that music is a vehicle that allows us to share a message, and vehicle that allows us to have conversations. So regardless of your age or regardless of your skin color, I think it's important that you can do music, but I think you also need to know the why behind why you do music. So for example, down by the Riverside, when we talk about that, it's a really fun, and I put it in this gospel perspective, but we also had to have conversations about what the piece means, you know, because it's a spiritual. And a lot of times when we talk about spirituals, we have to talk about slavery, and we have to talk about the songs that the slaves sung. And that's important because, you know, a lot of times people only sing spirituals during Black history, you know, and I think that it's important to not only program music by Black composers during the month of February. I think that just as Bach is alive and well, it can be done at any time. I think that, you know, any piece can be done at any time. Dr. Marcus Garrett has a great presentation about Black composers and how we don't always write spirituals and gospel music. We might be really good at it, but there are other pieces that are not spirituals and are not gospel. And I think that should be celebrated as well, not just, you know, Black composers doing one set, because that kind of puts us in a box of you can only do this, and that's just not true, you know? And so, yeah, I think it's important to pick the music, like the music, love the music, and also be ready to explore the why are we doing this and why, and allow the kids to answer and allow the kids to give feedback. How does it make them feel? You know, how does it make you feel doing Down by the Riverside now understanding its true meaning? That's a different question than do you like the song? Because my kids loved it, you know, but it's meaning when you understand what it's about.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I love the idea of giving background, giving context, and exploring how we feel about that. I think the topic that people call it now is, it's kind of tying into social emotional learning, which everybody's including their classrooms, that we really deal with that as an art form. Very interesting. Yeah. And so don't program your spirituals only in Black History Month, please. Yeah.
You know something else that I learned. This is homage to Dr. Anthony Tresick King, who is at Harvard University, and he did Missouri All-State a few years ago, and he actually opened the concert with a spiritual. And I told him at the end of the concert, he opened it with a spiritual and he closed with a spiritual. And I told him, I said, I have never seen that before because a lot of people don't program like that. And I said, that was just so unique. And I love how, you know, that takes us, that rips the Band-Aid off of the spiritual is now the closer, because we all have used spirituals as closers, you know, but it rips the Band-Aid off of that's the only place they can go, you know, but spirituals can be used anywhere. So you could start a concert with Down by the Riverside, you could end a concert with Down by the Riverside. It could also be something that's done in the middle. So it's not limited to just one space or one time. So I think that music really lends itself to wherever you want to place it. Again, understanding the why and knowing it fits, definitely.
And to me, it's such a critical part of the fabric of our American music.
Of course.
I really feel like it's a great part of our history. Of course, for many, many years, that was reserved only for Black people, and the slaves weren't singing this in the white churches, sadly, but this is part of our musical fabric and what has really shaped today's music.
And you kind of said something that's really key. You know, spirituals and gospel, that is American music. That is not foreign music. That is not multicultural music. That is music that was created right here, regardless of how it was created. It was created here, you know? So yeah, it should not be placed in a category of we're going to do American music or spirituals. Spirituals and gospel, that is American music. So I think that's important to also understand and to realize.
Neat. You're super young, Robert, so I can't ask you a legacy question. But I'm gonna ask you to predict the future or look into the future. Suppose 25 or 30 years from now, I'm confident that all choirs will recognize your name. We're gonna get to that point. What would you sort of like them to think about the your career and your impact on choral music? What do you want your voice to have said?
We've said a lot about the word voice, and I think I want people to understand what that means to me. I want people, when they think about my music, I want them to think about the voice that he brought to the table, you know? And so some people might ask, well, what does voice mean? Voice is not just, you know, SSA or SATB or like the different styles of combinations of voice, SAB. It's more so talking about the experience that you bring to the table. So for example, as I said before, gospel music is something that I heavily do. Jazz was something that I just fell in love with when I got to college, you know, and I like to listen to all styles of music. So over the past year or so, I've listened to everything from Dolly Parton to, you know, Black Veil Brides, which is a goth group, you know, because I want to be well versed in that. And I want people to, when they hear my music, to say, wow, I appreciated his voice. I appreciated his experience, you know. I appreciated how he, you know, that chord could have been just a regular one chord, but I appreciate how he kind of made it into like this dominant seven and it moved a little differently, you know, kind of this soulful way of teaching, soulful way of doing things. And I love to bring soul into anything that I do, you know.
Yeah, and soul is not only it's a musical style, but it's also like sort of your passion, your heart, your personality. I feel that from you.
Exactly. You know what's funny is I actually, when I was at Reed, and hopefully one day this will be a presentation that I get to do with the world. It's called Soulful Solfege, and it's a combination of unison rhythms and two-part things, and we take solfege and we kind of create songs based on, you know, do re mi fa sol la ti do, maybe a couple of accidentals, and I've had so much success from my students wanting to just do that. They just want to do solfege, you know, and it's hard because sometimes a lot of people they get burnt out with solfege, but this new system that I've kind of created, which is very simple and very basic, has created people to they're making these new harmonies, and they're just like, what's happening? And they really don't have any clue, you know, because we're not on a staff, we're not on a page, we're not holding music, we're looking at a screen, or we're looking at something and we're just doing our part, but together it just brings this cool harmony. And so that'll be coming pretty soon. So yeah, so soul is something that I love to bring into anything that I do. I think it's really important.
I love that idea. I mean, first of all, I'm a solfege guy, so I'm all about the solfege, but motivating the kids by making it soulful or a little of a different voice to it than the plain old patterns we typically know. Wow, sounds amazing. I can't wait to see it.
Definitely.
Very nice. Well, we have another song I want to share, and I wondered if you wanted to tell us anything about. Now, this is the one that came from the Pixar movie. Well, it appeared in the Pixar movie. Soul. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of soul.
Yeah. Exactly.
So this was one of the songs that you actually sent to me, and this was actually perfect example about talking about the voice. So one, you sent the song to me on like a Friday, and you said, I would love for you to do this. Two, you said you have a week to do it. And so I got frantic because I've never had a timeline when it came to doing songs. And I had a fear that this song is very basic. And when I use the word basic, I don't want to make it sound as if the song is not good. The song, you know, It's All Right is an amazing song. It is very simple, you know, but there weren't, you know, layers on top of it. So it was kind of an easy plate that I got to kind of paint on top of. But my fear was, okay, I'm going to add stuff. I wonder if they're going to like the voice. I wonder if they're going to like what I'm thinking in my head, you know? And as a writer, it's important to be very confident in that, you know? So in this, you'll hear the mashup again, because at the very end, they have this little mashup going on. I think that's probably my signature, you know? There's just one part where you have like the three voices kind of imitating in the background as you have the soprano doing the melody, you know? And I was fearful, like, are they gonna like that? And I've heard recordings of people and it's just so cool to hear people appreciating the voice. So going back to legacy, I want people to appreciate the legacy and appreciate, that's a really cool voice and how he brought that to the table.
Yeah, let's check it out, then we'll talk a little more.
Yeah.
About it.
Sure.
Say it's all right. Say it's all right. It's all right. Have a good time, 'cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now listen to the beat. Listen to the beat. Kinda pat your feet. Kinda pat your feet. You've got soul, and everybody knows that it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. When you wake up early in the morning, and feel like somebody don't feel so sad, just hum a little song. Make life your goal, and surely something's gotta come to you. Say it's all right, it's all right. Say it's all right, it's all right. It's all right, have a good time, 'cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now everybody clap your hands. Give yourself a chance. You've got soul, and everybody knows that it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Come on and clap your hands. Clap your hands. Give yourself a chance. Clap your hands. 'Cause you've got soul. You got soul, yeah, you got soul. You got soul. You got soul, yeah, you got soul. Got soul. And everybody knows that it's all right.
Love it. You got soul, yeah, yeah. You got soul. That's all you. That's all you. And
You know what's funny is when you sent that to me and I heard that ending part, because I was like, I heard that was the first thing I heard from that song. And I was like, I gotta find somewhere to put that. And I'm glad it worked out with all the parts. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
very cool. And let me tell you, part of my job as the editor, you know this now, is I always want your voice if I've asked you for a project. You know, I heard that song in the Pixar movie and I said, I want somebody to do this. Whose voice is going to be a good match for this? So hopefully if I get it right, I'm going to match you to songs that really, really are going to let you shine your voice loud and proud.
I love that.
And if I ever asked you for something that's not you, you can always say, oh, that's not quite me, Andy, I'll pass, you know?
Gotcha.
That's part of the gig here.
Mhm.
Hey, we have an interesting question here that's come from Alyssa Clayton. She asks, what does the process of writing a new piece look like for you? How do you tackle that?
Oh, great question. Thank you, Alyssa. So let's see. The newest song that I have written, I'm currently working on a mass. I'm currently working on some things that I did, or I wrote some things for MMA some time ago. And for me, there is something that sparks me to write it. So for example, I'm a big movie watcher. I'm a big, I like to just go and do things. I like to go and read, and something has to spark me. So for example, there's a song that is called Listen to the Hills. And I started writing this song, I would say in 2015, actually, and it didn't come to fruition until this year. And the song actually was inspired by the theater show Sister Act. So in the show Sister Act, there was a nun who she said these words. She said, "For you will go out with joy and be led forward with priests. The mountain and the hills shall clap their hands." And I remember sitting there going, like, I don't know why that just did something, but that kind of stirred the pot for that song. And so something has to catch my attention. Secondly, when I sit down to write it, there are people who kind of write, words first, and then they put it to music. I am actually the total opposite. I actually sit down and just kind of play, and then I allow the harmonies and those things to fill me up, and then I go back and add words. And some people might say that's actually difficult, but for me, that's just how it works, and because for me, the music, the harmonies is what drives me versus, and I can make words fit on top of that. And then I tend to do a lot of project choirs, so I can go and hear what it sounds like, because it sounds totally different in your head versus what it sounds like live. So I've done a lot of project choirs. And a couple people who are actually on this Zoom, I actually have been a part of those choirs. And then I take it to an editor, take it to a publisher who is going to help tweak it and make it even better. And so yeah, I think you have to find a spark of what you like. Or if it's an original composition, sitting it down and putting it to words, putting it to music, and then eventually adding other layers, other parts. And again, having your own voice is really important. The biggest step, I believe, is finding someone. So I'm fortunate that I have an editor, Andy, who can say like, "Ooh, this works. Let's try this." It's important to have someone who is very critical in that area and who's not going to beat you down, but who is going to challenge you and inspire you to go even further than what you've done. So for example, in Riverside, the ending originally was not the ending what it is now. Originally, I ended very safe. And your words were, "We've got to go bigger on the ending." Now, I knew what that meant. And so I was able to just take it, but you need somebody who's going to really push you to get all you can out of that music. So yeah, that's kind of my process for writing a new piece. And I think it's really helped me over the years.
That is really, really neat to hear about. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the answer, Robert. Before I do my very last question, maybe I want to check in with Felicia and see, Felicia, were there other questions or anything that we missed along the way?
At the moment, I don't see any questions in particular, but I did have a shout out from Alberta Smith. In response to down by the Riverside, she says that OTC Choir is going to be doing that tune in the fall of 22.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Awesome.
Alberta is like a genius, by the way. And so I can only imagine how great that choir is going to sound. Thank you, Alberta. They call her Schmitty. That's her nickname. So thank you, Schmitty.
Robert, I have to tell you that every time I present a Robert Gibson piece in one of my reading sessions this summer, which are, spread all over the country, I feel like there's always somebody in the room who knows you, who goes like, "Yes, yay for Robert." So you've made such a good impression on so many people already.
I think that as a school teacher and as someone who's only worked at middle school, you're in order to recruit kids, you have to be very likable and very approachable, and so I think I take that same energy when I go to conferences, and I want to just meet people and I want to just know who they are. And, I'm glad that has really worked and gotten me a lot of success, because people really don't, they don't know you or they don't know of you, like you have to have a really great first impression. So I'm glad I've met so many people. And I lived in Pennsylvania for, a short year, and I got to meet people up there. I've been in Missouri for the past 7 years. I'm back in Texas, which is home for me. So I know a lot of people here. So it's just great to be able to come back, and now I have music to share, with people, and people are actually programming it. I mean, that's really huge. I'm really blessed for that. So.
Oh, that's so great. And I don't feel like you're having to work very hard at being a personality who's friendly and warm.
You can't have hair this nice and work hard. I don't really work hard because my hair stays nice and laid. So yes.
All right. I noticed you had super long hair in the photo that was on your screen.
Yeah, so the story is in 2017, once I graduated from grad school, I actually cut my hair. And I was very happy with cutting it because I lost 4 pounds when I lost my hair. My hair was that Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so I cut my hair and I was okay. I was good going to sleep and just brushing it when I got up. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, I think it's time for another one. So the unique thing about my hair, my wife says this, that my hair is as old as my daughter is. So my daughter is going on 2.5. So my hair is 2.5 years old and 2.5 years long, which is really cool.
Oh
So
gosh.
if I need to remember how long my hair is, I'll just look at my daughter and I'll remember.
That's so awesome. And I know you guys just recently had a move. I hope everybody's settling in Texas.
We did. Yes, we are kind of still in transition a little bit. We'll be settling in a little bit, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we are definitely settling in and been making connections. It's going to be so great to be back in my alma mater at North Texas. I got a chance to go to the All-State camp, and I got a chance to go to the Choral Symposium they just had this year. So big shout out to Dr. Napolis and Dr. Hightower and Dr. McMullen are just some amazing choral directors. So I'll get a chance to work with them. Also Dr. Taylor and Dr. Powell and just all the music education faculty. I'm super excited for this new wave of life that's about to happen.
That's fantastic. And I thank you so much for taking time to fit us in during this really busy transition.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, could you give us, I'm going to try to close us out now. We've gone almost an hour here. And I thought maybe you could give us sort of the final benediction, your final thought or your motto or mantra for us. As choral educators and fans of Robert Gibson, what words would you leave us with?
Sure. If I had to think of 3 words, it would be embrace the journey. Embrace the journey for me means that nobody's journey is like your journey. You know, my journey, I would have never thought in a million years that I would be with Alfred. I would never think in a million years that I would have already taught on the collegiate level, that I would have taken a group, to MMEA, 2 groups to MMEA, that I'd be working on a PhD. My journey is not like anyone else's, and I'm grateful to see all of the different support that I've gotten from students and from mentors. Dr. Jerry McCoy is a big choral guru. Dr. Alan McClung is one of my people. Dr. Rollo Dilworth. These are all people that have had different journeys, and they're all amazing. And so I'm glad that I get a chance to go on my journey, but I also get to share my journey because my journey may not look like yours, but I think that me sharing my journey will help you to know that we all struggle with something. We lose friends, we gain friends, but at the end of the day, our journey is what really helps to embrace us. Along your journey, you might, I think about those who go hiking. You might fall, you might trip. It might scare you to death. But if you make it onto the other side, you get to express what happened on your journey, and I think that's really important. I think it's really keen to not think that your journey is less than, not think it's more than, but it's your journey, and you get to share that. So embrace the journey. That will be my sermonette of the hour.
I love it, Robert. Thank you so much for sharing. And on behalf of Alfred and me personally, thank you for including us on your journey.
Of course.
Hey, Felicia.
Thank you both, Robert and Andy. Thank you so much for giving us our time and giving us a glimpse into this conversation between the two of you.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you, Robert. This is also my first time getting to really know you as a musician and as someone here at Alfred. So I appreciate that. We're looking forward to seeing what music you come up with in the next couple of years. We're very excited about that.
Well, I think coming soon you might hear some new stuff. So
we have some things in the works.
We can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Robert. And have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.